Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Say It Different podcast. My name is Tyler Altoff, and I'm your host today, joined by my great friend.
Great friend.
Not just good, my great friend, Justin Daly.
I used to introduce every guest speaker as one of my best friends at church, and then I realized I had too many best friends, and it's a poor definition. It's superlative. English teacher, it's a superlative, right?
I've been out of the game for about 10 years now, so I'm a little
superlatives,
rusty.
I think, and you can't have you can have multiple bests. It actually goes.
That's a good question. Let's maybe start with that. How many best friends are too many best friends?
Well, you can only have one by definition.
Well, what if you have a best friend for different areas? Maybe you have a best friend that's a good
I think
parent,
we should switch it to have great
friend.
friends. You're a great friend.
You're a great friend.
Not the
you
greatest,
are a great friend.
But a great one. I did bring a prop this week because we did get some comments last week because we only had a side view. It's Bandon. It's the number one golf resort in the world.
The hat.
Yeah, we're not making a political statement.
Yeah, if you're listening on the audios, not just the videos, it's a Bandon hat.
Bandon hat.
Bandon. Yeah. We did say let's go Bandon, but it was like a golf tournament.
We would never say that.
Never say that.
I don't know.
Well, I got excited about the Bandon golf course.
No, I don't know where this. Hopefully, this is off camera, but it's done with the props.
Good clarity. Clarity is
kindness.
It's important.
What are we talking about today?
Well, I actually had some observations. My kids have started youth sports. Your kids are in youth sports as well, are they not?
They are.
They are. So I'm curious because I want to hear you've seen these people.
Okay.
The parents that get extremely excited for their child to play said sports.
Yes.
Whether it's football, soccer, cheerleading, those are my three right now.
They're living vicariously through their kids.
Yeah.
Yeah. You find very few parents that were actually good at sports who were overzealous with their kids' sports. It's usually like the mediocre average guy who now is living vicariously through his son. When we actually coached together, if you remember that.
We coached a T-ball season. I think we were pretty impressive.
Undefeated, but I would give a speech before every season. Like I'm a volunteer, and if you wanted to do this, you could have signed up as well. And I actually got an argument with one dad and walked off the field to the fence and offered to take off my coaching shirt for him to wear it. Because apparently he wanted to coach.
It's a good move.
Yeah. I'm not doing this for a living, and I don't even really like your kid. And so, you guys can go.
That T-ball league had one heck of a first base coach, if I remember correctly.
Well, what's crazy is we went undefeated 3 years and won the championship, but they didn't keep score and there was no championship.
Well, we always keep score.
But I kept score.
Yeah, we always kept score. Yeah. I also believe I got invited to be the first base coach of that team by finding a hat and a jersey in my mailbox.
Yes.
Yeah. That's how I knew.
I don't believe I asked you to coach.
I had been drafted. No, it felt great. It felt very exciting. It was like the what's the old Dennis Quaid movie where he's a pitcher in the major leagues? Yeah, rookie at like 40.
Yeah,
no, that's what it felt like.
It's based on a true story.
Yeah, well, I still got some life in me. I guess
back when Disney made family-friendly movies.
Oh, come on, we already got the people stirred up with Bandon. I don't need to go down the Disney Channel here.
What about participation trophies? How do we feel about those?
Oh yeah, we're just gonna hit all of it. There are winners and losers in life, and participation trophies strike a chord in me that I just don't like.
Yeah, 1 year in soccer, Bentley's team went winless, and we had a ceremony to throw his trophy away because people that go winless don't get trophies.
That's fair.
No,
fair.
In life you get what you
could
what
argue.
You work for.
You could argue you get a trophy as a loser in life. It's just not a trophy anybody wants.
Yeah, no? I don't know. I don't really know what you mean by that, but
I'm not sure I know what I mean.
It sounds provocative.
It's a superlative. I'm curious with youth sports just in general. I feel like my personal journey, I think there's a conversation here just about parenting in general that's interesting to me.
Yeah.
I grew up, played basketball. That was kind of my sport. My dad played collegiately football at the University of Miami, played actually a season in the NFL. And so only saying that to say he was super, super competitive and focused on developing me as an athlete, which I'm super grateful for.
Yeah.
There were times though that got a little tense at the home. Today, thank God we got an amazing relationship, right? But I think now as a dad of a 14-year-old who's playing football, it's kind of one of those things like so many other things in life where you're like, okay, I saw this in my life, so I'm going to do it this way, not that way.
For sure.
And if I'm not careful, I can be completely disengaged with some of that stuff, right? Versus overly engaged with
Yep.
some of the people we were kind of poking fun of earlier.
Yeah,
So,
I think we see a lot of trends, whether it be church, business, and talk about parenting today. Yeah, my fear is the pendulum has swung too far the other way. You know, we grew up sports. My dad was very hard on me, but we were very close. I loved it. There was a goal set. There was a standard that he expected.
Yeah.
There was practice needed. And then when I didn't meet the standard, I knew. And now it's kind of like, just do your best and have fun, and the results don't matter. I don't know that that's setting up our kids any better.
Yeah.
Yes, we're going to love you no matter what. Yes, you're valued. Your performance is not how you're defined. But like in life, we should raise our kids to have a standard. If they don't meet that standard, there's consequences, or there is ups and downs, there's losses and failures. So I think we've shifted to even take it away from youth sports as parents, parenting styles. We've shifted from maybe over discipline to not enough discipline, maybe over correction to maybe a little over compassionate. I think we're
Right.
afraid of some of the tough conversations. We're afraid of hurting our kids' feelings, and we forget that we're called to develop those things.
Yeah, I want you to elaborate a little bit more, but there's a verse in Proverbs in the Bible, Proverbs 22:6. It talks about directing your children, or train up a child in the way he should go or she should go, and when they are old, they won't depart from that. Right? Other translations read, discipline a child in the way that they should go, and it's interesting because those words, train, discipline, direct, those all kind of suggest that we have a responsibility as parents to do some of the stuff you're saying, which would be like set goals and hold kids accountable and lean into corrective conversations. So like, where's that balance? Because we can't just always be doing that and not have any relationship either.
No, we're always, our goal is to raise and develop, well-rounded, high character individuals, and to parent them from birth all the way through adulthood. We do have to capture their heart. It's the same thing in leadership. It's the same thing in discipleship, and even more intentionally in parenting. I do have to have their heart. Yeah. So they need to know that I love them, that I'm for them. I'm not always just talking about what they're doing or how they're doing. We're talking about the why. We're talking about how they feel. So that is the priority. Their heart is the priority. If I don't get their heart, the reason some of the older generation parenting didn't work, or its weaknesses, were they would behave well at home, but outside the home they would do something different because we were focused so much on behavior modification. Yeah. So I do think we have to capture their heart. They have to know we're with them, we love them, we're there for them. But there has to be expectations, standards, and then discipline or correction when those things aren't met.
When a kid is 5 years old, young, it's easy to discipline.
For sure.
When a kid is 13, 14, or 15, the years and stages that I'm starting to step into, that gets completely more difficult, right?
For sure.
Mainly because it's a lot more explanation, conversations, and a little less just physical discipline or go to your room, you're grounded kind of stuff, right? Yeah. So I think that's where I would, from my observation, I would see where the buddy parenting starts to happen.
For sure.
Now I'm going to be my kid's friend, because it's tough to lean into those disciplining conversations. For sure. and figure out even how to discipline. Maybe it's even that. I don't even know how to discipline my kid.
Yeah, what do you take away?
Be the friend.
Yeah, what do you take away? Yeah. But I only have my oldest child right now is 12, almost 13 next month. But I had great parents, and specifically from a father's perspective, my dad, it turned into a lot less statements as I got older and a lot more questions.
Yeah.
Like leadership is getting people to make decisions for themselves, to lead for themselves, to take ownership and responsibility for themselves. And so as they get older, just like as we get more mature as believers, or the leaders that we're developing at church or in business, we've got to get them to own it. Own their life, own their decisions, and become their own person. And I really feel like, at least with my dad and my mentors, what I'm trying to do with my boys, especially Bentley, who's going to be 13 pretty soon, is have longer conversations with more questions, more listening, and then figure out how I can really shape his heart, his mindset, his worldview. I'm not even really worried about this instance. I'm worried about how are we going to get the root of this or the foundation of this? Now, obviously, there are kids that, and our kids that screw up, that get in trouble at school, and discipline is needed. But for the most part, I feel like it's longer conversation. So we're transitioning kind of from a direct authority figure to a mentor.
Yeah.
I'd be careful until they're adults. The friend is great. It's not a bad term, but friend is equal. So I'd be very careful for anybody listening or watching to think, well, I'm going to become my kid's friend. I think that's a dangerous terminology because that looks like a peer relationship. I'm more of a mentor now. Yeah. As he gets older, less authority and more mentorship, because he's going to be out of the house in 5 years, and be at college 5-6 years. I'm not going to be there. So I need to talk about why and the foundational things, the root to the problem, not just try and control his behavior.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that specifically what could help people listening is having conversations about not just the physical and the emotional development of our kids, but the spiritual development of our kids. I think the nature of what we do for a living, maybe that's why people are even listening, right? Yeah. As church leaders, this is kind of something that is our air quote area of specialty. And so I think just asking questions to that maybe could bring out some helpful kind of principles. Okay. And so the first question I want to ask you is how do you pray with your kids?
We pray every night. And it's kind of, I pray or they pray. We just make it fun. I mean, I pray for them when they're sick. I pray for them when they have a test. But it's three men praying. Now Gabby's involved now, but it's for most of their life, it's just been the three of us. And so, we don't have long attention spans. Quick prayers. Popcorn prayer. Yeah. Popcorn
there
prayer.
It is.
Yeah. And so, it's just a lot of fun. So we pray over everything. We pray over their day. I mean, I'll just tell you what we pray over specific things. And then I end with, God, I pray that you give them peace as they sleep tonight. Yeah. Clarity and confidence as they walk throughout their day. Yeah. Thank you for all that you've given us. Let us be good stewards of all that you've blessed us with. And then we kind of turn this fun thing kind of like an old school preacher, and we all have a statement. So like I'll be like, and Lord, we glorify, and then Bentley will say magnify, Kingston will say testify, and all like a preacher voice, and then Gabby will say sanctify, and then we thank him for his goodness, his glory, his blessings, and his biscuits.
Organ biscuits?
Biscuits. We were goofing off one night, and Bentley has a really funny Southern accent like that he does to be funny. So he kept saying like, Mama's biscuits. And so I was like, we thank God for his biscuits. So we close it out. So it's fun. It's easy. But we listen to worship music. We talk about their faith. It's just kind of, it's organic. I feel like family devotionals are great. We're looking to start that pretty soon, but I don't want it to be another thing on their list. So it's just like, hey, what's your favorite worship song? Okay, you get to pick a worship song driving to school today. Let's talk about it. Yeah. Hey, what did you learn? What verse did you read? Bentley loves to read the Bible. And so what are you reading? And so it's just really conversational. Yeah,
that makes a lot of sense. I think, first of all, I want to circle back to the biscuits. Yeah. Just because I feel like I want to know. Yeah. It's just a couple of guys processing. A biscuit. Yeah. You do love a good biscuit.
I love a good biscuit.
Best biscuit you've ever had?
My Nana's biscuits are the best I've ever had.
Well, we can't all go to Nana's house and have her biscuit. Yeah. What's the best biscuit I can get right now?
Hands down, the best biscuit is Hardee's.
Hardee's. I got to tell you, the other day, a couple weeks ago now, we were traveling Birmingham Airport.
Yes.
Chick-fil-A made a fresh biscuit. They said it's going to be 7 minutes.
It's not close.
But we got biscuits coming fresh out of the oven. I got to tell you, I was praying, thank you, Lord, for your biscuits after biting that biscuit, because it hit a spot in my soul that I didn't even know I needed hitting.
No, there's a biscuit specialist at Hardee's that shows up at 4:30 a.m. Those are hand rolled homemade biscuits every morning. Nobody believes me, but you go there, you will see her in the back, and she's crushing life. It's basically what Hardee's has done is they've taken Nana and they've put her in the back. Yeah. My poor Nana is just making biscuits every single day at Hardee's.
A fun fact about me.
And their gravy is really good too. You may need a bathroom within 2 hours of eating a Hardee's gravy biscuit, but I'm just telling you it's worth it.
You will not be late to your flight. Yeah, you'll be sprinting.
You may
sprinting there.
You may have a couple extra trips up and down the aisle on the flight too.
I need to let you know a fun fact about my life.
Yeah.
I actually was a baker at Panera Bread back in the day. 4:30 a.m. start time.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't like Panera.
Well, I'm not there anymore.
Good.
So things have changed.
I don't like places that make me work and then charge me for it.
Yeah. Well,
like they have a tip thing, and I have to clean up my own plate.
Panera is not a sponsor of the Say It Different podcast.
They're not. And if you own a Panera, you work at Panera, we love you. Yeah. But I just don't know why you're asking me to tip you when I'm cleaning up my own stuff.
No, it makes sense.
Yeah. Should be a discount, not a tip.
You should be paying me.
Yeah, you should pay me. I'll take $3 for cleaning up the restaurant.
I want to ask with kids and with parenting, like so many things, it's easy for me to look across the table, to hear what you just kind of said about praying with your kids, with your boys. I know that I'm supposed to pray with my kids. It's easy for me to hear you kind of talk about how you do it, and feel like, well, I have to do it like that.
Right.
How do we keep from just kind of comparing our parenting style versus this is my style, this is what God's called me to do, and this is how he's called me to do it. Like, that's where I get hung up. I
would say whether you're a single parent or more of a traditional family, because I've been in both seasons, it's in a business, in church. What are your values? Like what are the all-tops going to be known for? What are the dailies going to be known for? So back to the beginning, we're setting a standard of who we're going to be. And then we create systems to develop and reach that standard. And so, but parenting style, I have two totally separate parenting styles just for my two boys. So to look across and see what you're doing with Eli, or somebody look at what I'm doing with Bentley, I have two totally different humans. With two totally different emotional makeups, worldviews, how they process information. So my conversations with Kingston and Bentley are completely different. My discipline approach with Kingston and Bentley are totally different because of what they respond to. I have values, but systems in homes and in business they are a vehicle to accomplish your values and get to your goals. So, but you can't have the same system for every setting.
Right.
And so I even have different systems for each individual child. So I would never look across at somebody else and say, well, you're doing that wrong. Is your system, here's the question I would ask the parents, is the system you're currently implementing, is it working? Do you see the values and the fruit in your kids? And if not, then find some resources. There's so many great books out there. We have small groups at Action Church that teach parenting curriculum. I would just say educate yourself. There's so many resources.
Would you say I think another thing I can get hung up on is I hear I'm supposed to pray with my kids, and I'm 100% on board with that. I agree with that. But I can in my mind picture that looking like a 15-minute every night prayer session and discount maybe the 30-second prayer that I had with my kids on the way to school. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that gets sticky too. We're going to have family devotional times. No matter what, it's on Monday nights and it's going to be an hour and a half long and we're going to love it. And we're going to get to like. I'm
never going to be excited about that.
Yeah.
Personally. Yeah. And that may work. Like one of our good friends has a weekly devotional night and his kids love it. And they love it, and that works for them. Like, and it's one of the things they look forward to. Like, he's literally teaching and worshiping, and they're having basically a family worship service, and it's amazing. And I celebrate that. But that's not my wiring. That's not my boys' wiring. And so ours is we're going to pray together. We're going to listen to a worship song in the morning. I'm basically showing them here it is. I'm showing them my relationship with God. Yeah. And they're not going to have my relationship with God, but I'm just living out authentically my relationship with God with them. I'm very ADD. I don't go and spend 30 minutes in devotions and like praying in a room. Like my time with God is much more strategic and then kind of placed throughout the day. And so I'm kind of just living my faith journey in front of them and hopefully allowing them to develop their own along the way.
Yeah. Are there things you're doing outside of, I'll call it teaching, right? There's head knowledge of God and then there's heart knowledge of God, right? The head knowledge is teaching. That is Bible. That is small groups. That is books, podcasts, etc. There's heart knowledge, which is experience. Are there ways that you're facilitating teaching your kids heart experiences with God? Like, how are you facilitating that piece to it?
Just sharing. I mean, and Gabby's great at this too. She loves the word and she loves spending time with God. It's kind of just how to do it. I'm just talking about what's important to me. And so like, hey, I'll be very vulnerable with the boys of, hey, man, did you feel the difference in worship? Like we just did our, not release, but played one of our first original songs. And me and Bentley, I'm on the front row crying, listening to it and put my arm around him. This is a really special moment. Like look around at what God has allowed us to be a part of. And so just letting them see the highs, the lows, the ups and the downs, and then talking them through why. I mean, I think if we're trying to build that close relationship, it's way more intentional and not as this big dramatic thing. It's just, hey, let them in. Let them into how you're feeling, your God moments, what God's doing in your life. And so, I don't know.
Yeah, there's probably two, right? Like, I think there's some things that getting our kids around places where God is important, right? Like, especially as they're growing, and we're talking teenagers now, is my voice is getting less and less important to them, and maybe less and less heard.
Yep.
So I've got to get them around places where God is, because then they're going to feel him in ways that they can't deny. And
that whole, it takes a village, get them around high school student leaders, college student leaders, like let them see that other people are saying the same thing dad or mom are saying, but different. And so getting them around people that you want them to be like. I would say a couple things. Mentors are so important. So get them somebody, a student pastor, a small group leader, a college leader, whatever it is. And then as parents, I think we should have parent mentors. Like we've talked about this before over the years. Like I have business leaders that I look up to, that I seek advice. I have dads that I look up to. I have pastors. Yeah. I don't look just for a mentor. That's maybe a future conversation. That's a big like buzzword. I need to find a mentor. Well, I need to find lots of mentors. Yeah. Because I need somebody, because you may be a great dad, but a terrible business person. And you may be a great pastor, but a terrible dad. Yeah. And I'm not going to go ask you if your kids, if none of your kids talk to you, I don't want to ask parenting advice from you. And so I think finding a family or finding a situation, if you're a single parent, find a single parent who's raised healthy kids and ask those questions. And you don't have to have relationships with your mentors. We're doing a podcast. We listen to podcasts. We read books. You can be mentored through a curriculum, through a book, through a podcast. And so I would just say learn. So you don't have an excuse in 2023 to not be a knowledgeable parent. Yeah. You know, you can find the tools are out there. And they're available, and you just got to maybe do some work. Yeah. Yeah. That's good. I think when we're having this conversation kind of for the first time here, and I'm doing my best to track with this. And there's actually like a personal thing to this that I'm really interested in. Okay. There's a part of, I'm discovering there's a part of parenting that is me growing with my kids. For sure. Maybe a better way to say that is I'm evolving my parenting style as my kids are naturally evolving in age. Mm-hmm. And one of the most difficult things is accepting some of the realities that come with that. So like I just said, I'm looking at a 14-year-old boy, and if I study psychological development, I know I've got about 18 months tops where dad is cool. Mm-hmm. Dad has a place, and I'm not saying he's never going to listen to me in high school, but my voice now becomes like third or fourth on the list versus one on the list, right? And as a dad, that really sucks, you know? And I got to accept that though, so that I can now evolve my parenting focus and strategy. Does that make sense? Yep. So I think that's, if I'm thinking about global parenting, I think that's a hang up for people. Because it's really tough, man. Yep. It's really tough. It's two things. It's me accepting my own limitations, which nobody ever likes to do. Right. And it's me really leaning on my faith and saying, God, for sure, I need you now more than ever when it comes to my kids. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Because we're making deposits in something that then is going to go live on their own, and they're going to have either a head start or be slowed down. We're going to put a lot of great things or a lot of trauma. We're either going to be a large portion of the foundation of them being successful, or the foundation of them being in therapy for the rest of their life. Right. Yeah. No, we've joked the measuring stick for our success as parents is how much counseling my kids will actually need. Right. They're going to need some. Yeah, definitely. They're going to need some. I do think I want to help. As you were saying that, I think in marriage, or you and a husband and wife, or even as a single parent, there'll be certain seasons that you're better at. Yeah. Like there are some parents that are great at the early years. They're detailed and they're organized and everything's got a plan and everything's packed. And there's some that are great at the adult years. I would say begin to figure out what your tendencies are, and it's never too late to start. And I really feel like if we invest time now, I'm really believing, I know we're going to be I know that we're going to be less of a voice as they get older, especially in high school. But I'm just really believing that the intentional time that I'm putting in now is going to pay dividends, because I see so many parents that aren't spending time with their kids now. They aren't at games. They aren't at practices. They're working. They're busy. They've got their friends over. And then they wonder why their kids are 16, they don't want to hang out. Well, you never prioritize them.
Right.
And so if I've made it cool for me to hang out with a 12-year-old, which, by the way, isn't cool. Right. Like, I love them, but like after about 10 minutes, it's like, what are we talking about? I don't care about COD or Fortnite or whatever. Well, you know what I mean? Like,
I get it.
Yeah. And so, but I'm pushing through that, showing him that I value our time, hoping, and I can only do what I can do, but hopefully planning something that will then I'll reap as he's older, that we have time together. So I just think it's so important. We say it from platform here, but love is spelled TIME with kids. Like, it's time. So I would just encourage parents, just time is quantity and quality with kids. And I know we've got jobs and people have multiple jobs, but whatever you can do, you'll never regret time with your kids, and they'll never forget when mom or dad showed up.
Right.
And showed up consistently.
Right. Yeah. And probably also, I think about, like, right now, the two things that are really priorities to me is, one is I drive 2 of my kids to school every day in middle school.
Same.
And that car ride is whoever's sitting in the shotgun is just opening up the Bible app, reading the verse of the day, and we're talking about it. Mm-hmm. And to say we're talking about it at 7:05 in the morning, I'm talking about it. And I'm trusting they're listening, and I'm asking questions, and it's a one-word response because it's early. Yeah. It can feel very disengaging. But I'm trusting that now there's some
you're
thought. There's some stirring right now that's happening. The other thing I'm doing consistently, and it's hilarious, is my 14-year-old son has a phone, and I'll text him encouragements before a game, which I just did the other night before his football game. And it's this, 5-sentence, love you, proud of you, XYZ kind of thing. Go get them. And the response I get is K. Just the letter K. It's like, did you even read it? What is happening right now?
So I spend a week on, week off with my kids, and because of our situation, and I will send texts and call, and if I don't get a call that day, I'll text like, love you, hope you had a great day. And he's like, K, or just love you. No punctuation. It's like I wrote 5 sentences, and it's like, I'm good, thanks. And me and Bentley are like best buds. I think even texting in that generation is like, okay, Dad, thanks a lot.
Well, you forget you're teaching them etiquette too, right? So I mean, it's a 14-year-old that has no idea how to even text.
I don't know if I'm jumping ahead because we don't ever have any briefing of these, but I want to make sure that we talked about capturing their heart. The world's trying to capture their heart as well. And make sure you're not afraid of any conversation. One thing that I know we've both done well, we do a lot of things wrong, is we talk about everything. And we normalize everything. And if we can talk about it, then we can build a relationship in that area. And there's just nothing off limits. And so when it comes to their purity, when it comes to sexuality, when it comes to their language or their friends, like I'm not offended by anything. And if you talk to me and tell me, I mean, gosh, I think one of the things that we're learning is there's not a lot of punishment at the daily household if there is if they bring it to the table. Like, now obviously there's consequences to actions, but if it's something that I was never going to know and they tell me, I'm going to reward that. Now we're going to have a conversation on how to get better, but there's way less discipline when there's a conversation initiated. I think so many parents jump so hard on the discipline when their kids make a maybe even a big mistake. But what you're telling them, there needs to be consequences, please hear me. But what you're telling them is, if you tell me something like that again, this is going to be the punishment, as opposed to, okay, let's talk about it. Now, if you've got habitual things, if you've got addiction, you got stuff like that, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, I made a mistake when it comes to my purity. I looked at the wrong thing. I said this and made fun of somebody. Okay, well, let's talk about how you got there. Let's talk about how not to get back there again. What new boundaries can we set up? It's much more of a conversation on how to get better than it is disciplinary based off the posture of their heart. Their confession, as opposed to just finding out something. I think we should look for ways to reward with grace open and honest, real conversations and confessions.
No, I think that's awesome and great. And I know I've talked with my kids a lot about I don't need you to be perfect because nobody is.
Right.
But we're going to have big problems if you do the same mistake multiple times. I need you to be teachable.
For sure.
Like, yeah.
Apologizing to your kids too.
Yeah.
There's so much power when dads, I remember some of the most profound moments I've had with both boys is when I yelled, they're back there laughing. And I'm like, just shut up. I'm on the phone. I'm stressed.
Yeah.
And I freak out and they're kind of like this and going back to them an hour later and said, hey, that wasn't you guys. That was me.
Right.
You weren't being annoying. I'm like, shut up. You're being annoying.
Yeah.
And it's like, and then you get done with that moment and you're like, oh my gosh, they weren't annoying. Like I'm an idiot.
What happens to us, man? We just get so old and
angry. Yeah.
Close the door.
Yeah.
Turn on the light. I don't want the door to being open to bother me.
Yeah.
But it does. I can't help it.
Quit laughing. Yeah. Like I'm seriously, this is the stupid things I say. Would you guys quit laughing?
Yeah.
Like
y'all are playing great, so stop it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You love each other, quit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I don't. Gosh, I hate getting old, man. It's terrible. It's a terrible thing. Well, you have any other final thoughts or things with parenting?
No, just prioritize. If people will prioritize their relationship with God and live that out in front of their kids,
yeah,
and then they will prioritize that they are parenting or mentoring for life.
Yeah.
So there are no hills to die on as parents.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not talking about addiction or trauma or abuse. There's so many terrible stories out there. So I'm not speaking to that exception, but the general rule, let's prioritize. I'm parenting you in a covenant relationship for life.
Yeah.
And so let's just make sure we're always shepherding hearts, not behaviors, that we're leaning on conversations before we correct, so that we're doing this. Hopefully our kids are calling us 20 years from now with questions about their kids because we've maintained that relationship.
Right. My closing thought is this. I know that God is a generational God. He does things through generations. And my one question when I'm hopefully old and gray and go to the pearly gates and I have that opportunity to ask God my one question, right? It's going to be, why did you make leading from generation to generation so difficult? Like, why am I still not able to be a 10-year-old kid so I can better connect with my 10-year-old kid, right? Like, why is that? Why is a 70-year-old just cranky all the time and hates the millennials that are ruining the world? And then millennials hate Gen Z who are ruining the world. And then Gen Z is going to hate whoever's next, right?
Sure.
It's just this, I don't understand that. I don't want that to be the case, but it is. And that's what parenting
Well, I'm glad
makes.
that's your question for God and not for me.
Yeah.
Because I don't have the answer.
No, I know. Things to think about.
Yeah, things to think about. You think about that.
You think about that. No, I think that one's already taken.
Yeah, I can't do that one.
That one's already taken. Yeah. Hey, thanks so much for joining us today. Listen, without all of you, we're just talking to ourselves, which may be the case. I don't know, but we are so grateful and honestly blown away that people are actually taking time to listen to this.
Yeah, share, like, subscribe. 5 stars only.
5 stars only,
5
please.
stars only.
Gosh, thank you so much. We'll see you Sunday for the next episode.